The following review will contain heavy spoilers for Race to Crashpoint Tower, and potentially The Rising Storm. If you haven't read these books and want to go in blind, I recommend coming back to this video at another time. However, if you have already read these books, or if you don't care much for spoilers, then feel free to stick around as we jump right in. Race to Crashpoint Tower by Daniel Jose Older is the middle grade novel from Wave 2 of the High Republic. Picking up 1 year after the events of Light of the Jedi, this book plays out parallel to the events of the middle of the Rising Storm, and works its way into the main dangers of the Republic Fair. The book's main character is a frontier Padawan named Jomaram, and he's described as someone who prefers working with machines as opposed to meeting with real people. His happy place is in the back of his garage where he can understand everything and how it works. His partner is a custom modified droid named V-18 who has a lot of sass to him, similar to C-3PO, and I thought that this was a perfectly played out dynamic. Ram really doesn't do well with human interaction, so seeing him be himself with all different forms of technology is really cool. Just like A Test of Courage, Race to Crashpoint Tower has a very linear story that is simple to follow. With it being a middle grade book, I completely understand that. However, this book seems to be a little more on the adult side. Sure, there are some scary moments in A Test of Courage, but this book goes through the horrors of what is happening at the Republic Fair. And from a Padawan's perspective, that's terrifying. That's really terrifying. But it helps to play into the Rising Storm really well. Ram actually first appears in the Rising Storm as he helps Ty Yorick escape from a Valo prison cell. Race to Crashpoint Tower tells the story of Ram setting out to fix the comms tower that had been taken down by the Nihil. He has to get it back up to get a distress call out to the Republic about this Nihil attack. He ends up getting arrested for trespassing though, and we get to see the jail cell scene from the Rising Storm, but this time from his perspective. Not only that, but we stay there long enough to see what happened after that scene ended in the Rising Storm. After the scene ended originally, more help came to their aid, this time being Padawan Lula Talisola from the High Republic Adventures comic series. Lula happened to hear part of the distress call that Ram tried to get out before he was arrested and came straight to Valo with Jedi Knight Vernestra Rwoh. This is another great crossover, since Vernestra was first introduced in the first middle grade book, so seeing her story continue for young readers is quite nice. Lula parts ways with Vernestra to help on the ground, and it's a great team up between Lula and Ram throughout the rest of the book, as they fight their way through the raid of the Republic Fair in an attempt to get to Crashpoint Tower, which only ends up getting more dangerous as they go. The Rising Storm brought up the zoo and how it was filled with dangerous creatures, which we get to endure as Ram and Lula have to face off against a rag scythe and a mudhorn as they attempt to make it through the zoo to the tree line on the outskirts of the city. One of the key moments that I really loved about this book is that in the Rising Storm, there is mention of the Drengir threat being present on Valo during the Republic Fair, but we don't really see it. That's because the threat is being dealt with by Ram and Lula at the base of Crashpoint Tower. And let me tell you, it's a really wild encounter. While only a Padawan, I think Ram has more strength than he gives himself credit for. He is able to bond with the Drengir through the Force and convince them to aid by defending the Jedi against the Nihil attack, while they're trying to get the tower comms back up and running. While all the other Jedi that have encountered the Drengir have just tried to fight them off, Ram is able to explain to the Drengir through the Force that the Nihil have been cheating them and they don't plan on keeping their promise. I guess this shows that the Jedi have been going about the Drengir invasion the wrong way, and there is a lot that they could potentially learn from Ram's encounter with the Drengir. Overall, this was a really fun read, but I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I did A Test of Courage. Don't get me wrong, the story and characters were great, but again, it is a middle grade book and I am not the target audience. However, if you're trying to go through all of the published works of the High Republic, I definitely think you should give it a read. It helps fill in the gaps from the Rising Storm, and we get to see some great characters return, such as Vernestra Rwoh from A Test of Courage, and I really can't stress enough how much I love seeing all of these characters interact with each other. I think it's the coolest thing ever. But that's everything I have to say about Race to Crashpoint Tower. What did you think? Do you think the middle grade books are essential reading for the High Republic? And what are your thoughts on the High Republic so far? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't, and remember, the Force will be with you, always.